Good morning, guys. Welcome to another virtual lesson. Today we will continue with this series of subjects that pretend to illustrate how cyberspace is being used with harmful purposes. We are going to be analyzing one of the biggest and more important digital networks out there, which is the Internet, and more specifically, what's happening on the social media. And in order to do so, we are going to be focusing on a very famous case, which is Cambridge Analytica. I think it's no mystery that social media has been a great phenomenon on this century, and millions of people all over the world are using it or participating on it in some way. Today I want you to have a closer look to these tools, because there are so many things that we take for granted and that we don't consider to be dangerous in our daily lives. I hope this video could be taken as a wake-up call for you to understand the perils of the information you are sharing on social media, and hopefully it will change the way you utilize these tools as well. We are going to analyze some practices that take place on social media made by enterprises who want to change your behavior to achieve very specific goals. Even if we are taking Cambridge Analytica case as an example to explain this kind of practices, this case has mainly political implications, but it's very important to understand that these same practices are applied in so many other fields. Let's start by saying that the Internet has profoundly changed our world. It has modified the way we communicate, the way we explore the world, and also the way we advertise. We have now access to a lot of information that could have been impossible decades ago to obtain. And this has opened our eyes and our minds to a whole new spectrum of different things. This access to information has provoked that too many people start questioning their own habits or their own traditions, ideas that have been on their cultures for centuries and that were shared by families and friends. So much people tend to embrace other cultures' practices and ways, and somehow has unified up to some point the way we all behave by accelerating greatly the process of globalization. That being said, and understanding that these tools can be used and have been used for very praiseworthy activities or purposes, we have also to point out the dangers that they bring, because we are here to discuss the manipulating power that these tools have. Internet has been one of the greatest channels for selling these stereotypes of, for example, beauty or success, making people all over the world change the way they behave in order to achieve certain lifestyles. This is mainly how influencers were born, right? It has been proven that enterprises are behind them most of the times, and are building, with an entire team behind it, are building this figure that can drive masses to any specific type of lifestyle. And most of these practices have been possible because of the one and most valuable asset in modern society. And it is not oil, not gold, but data, personal data, which is all over the place for enterprises to take advantage from. The thing is that enterprises will sell you the idea that they need your data in order to give you a better service, or in order to offer you better products, or products that will satisfy your needs in a better way. This is how they teach that on marketing schools, right? I myself had the opportunity to be in marketing school for more than a year, And I can tell you this is how they teach you the nice practices of marketing. But sadly, when you get to know a little more of the industry, you will find out that these practices are not very common. They are using your data in a very different way. They want to know you deeply, but not to know how to satisfy you, but to know how to convince you about getting their products. And this is all connected with the subject we are going to be dealing with today. And this is mainly the importance of personal data and how these data have been used with harmful intentions to manipulate the way people behave in a democratical context for winning the presidential elections in USA in 2016. For me, it was very important to start to make an introduction that had this commercial side of the problem included, because it's important to understand that this is where it all began. Data mining, or at least legal data mining, was conceived mainly with commercial purposes in mind. And when the enterprises had enough data, when I say enough, it's too much data, they will need to create some algorithms that will result useful in order to create personality profiles that will help these enterprises to better target all of their advertisements. This was called big data, and it may be the most revolutionary thing that happened in the century regarding sales management. And I also wanted to make this connection between marketing and data mining because they are very related to one another. Actually, what we call today digital marketing, it's very focused on data mining. You will pay for a campaign in which the actual cost of it will be based on the number of data points that you are going to acquire. This is called a CPL campaign, and that stands for a cost per lead, where a lead is just that, a data point that usually is the email from a possible client. So afterwards you may be able to initiate an email marketing campaign. And here we are getting closer to the topic we wanted to discuss, which is again the Cambridge Analytica case, in which we are going to see two particularities that are very important. First of all, the illegal obtention of data, and second, the appliance of all these tactics and practices on a democratical context. So, okay, 2018, Christopher Wiley, data scientist and computing expert, former employee of Cambridge Analytica, will start to talk to the press and reveal a series of practices that have been implemented in over 100 of political campaigns all over the world from 2014 to 2018. He will explain how they have created a mechanism able to manipulate people in order to vote for the candidate they wanted. In the particular case of USA elections of 2016, in which Donald Trump was elected as president, Wiley declared that he contacted Alexander Cogan. Alexander Cogan was a professor of the University of Cambridge, and together they developed an application that will run on Facebook disguised as a personality test. With this personality test, which millions and millions of Americans filled out, and another bunch of information they just bought from Facebook, they will declare that they had over 5,000 data points of every American voter. When I speak about this data they bought from Facebook, I am speaking about private messages, status, posts, friends, likes, whatever interaction you have on Facebook was available to be by these guys. With all of this information, they were able to determine very specific personality profiles that they will then start attacking with very, very target advertising. And of course, all of this information is not only available for these people, okay? In the documentary, Brittany Kaiser, also ex-employee from Cambridge Analytica, will assure that almost all the revenue, or at least a huge percentage of Facebook revenue, comes from direct monetization of personal data from the users. First of all, they had to determine which of these people were susceptible of being changed of mind about the candidate they were supporting. Then they will identify the states in which this amount of persons will be determinant for the elections. Remember, guys, that in the United States, the candidate who results winner is not the one who has the most of the votes, but the one who wins in most of the states. So they could focus all their efforts in these thousands of people whose mind could be changed in different states in order to turn around those states in favor. They knew everything about these people, the things they like, the things they feared, how they think, everything. So from this moment on, these people will be bombarded with very, very custom advertising in order to change their minds. And they will be step by step manipulated until they vote for the one they want. And taking into account that in the United States there is no such thing as fair competition, right? Here, for example, in Colombia, we, as an advertiser, we cannot even name our competitors, right? You will see on television that, for example, if we want to talk about the product that is the one who has the higher sales on the market right now, we have to say it exactly like that. Like, the product who is the most sell in this country does this or whatever, and we do this and this, okay? And it's better because blah, 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 okay? So in the United States, this does not apply. For example, there's some very famous advertisements from Pepsi or from Coke, or for example from Burger King and McDonald's, in which they completely destroys the competitor. They spoke very directly about their products, about their flaws, about whatever they want, even if it's true or not. They can do that. It's not any law that they are breaking by doing this, okay? So you can imagine the whole lot of things that they may have said about the other candidate, okay? And in the documentary we get an idea, right? There is even a scene in which all the crowd who supports Donald Trump, it's crying out loud like, lock her up, because they were completely convinced that she was a criminal. This was like one of the main banners behind Trump's campaign, making people believe that Hillary Clinton was a total criminal. She was very corrupted, and it was by this reason not the first option to take the presidential charge. They finally did it. They changed the mind of thousands of people, apparently around 70,000 people that were directly attacked by this campaign, and that's how they got Donald Trump to be president of the United States. This is very serious, guys, because this represents an incredible threat to democracy all around the world. And as I told you, they have participated in over 100 political campaigns in 5 years. So you can just doubt of the transparency of all of this process. Enterprises like Facebook or Google are sitting in a mine of gold. They have all the information you can imagine about every user, okay? And these enterprises are already making a lot of money out of their advertisement platforms. You may be familiar with Google AdWords, which works by deploying ads to certain people who make similar searches, similar to the products someone is offering, right? And on the other hand, Facebook ads is maybe the greatest advertisement platform today. Cambridge Analytica case will reveal that Trump's campaign was investing nearly $1 million daily on the peak of their campaign on Facebook ads, right? So they have already a great profit out of data exploiting, right? And this is somewhere legal because this data is not considered to be private. Right. But in this case was evidently very different because the data that was sold was the one that is considered to be private. So it was a total violation of our privacy rights. The thing is that people doesn't value their information as enterprises do. Okay? People, for some reason that I can't understand, are in a rush to share whatever they do, whatever they eat, whatever place they visit, whatever, it's incredible. It's incredible how people just give away all their information, okay? For set an example, a newborn baby can take a day to be on Facebook because its parents will post their photograph right away. How much money do you think diapers enterprises make in the first year of a newborn baby life? Do you think they will be interested in this kind of information to know who of all of these Facebook users on their database are new parents? Of course they are, and of course they know. Now it just remains to be seen how they will take advantage of that information. Mark Zuckerberg went to court in the USA and made a very particular statements. He mainly denied it all. Okay, he firstly said that, for example, they wasn't aware about the capabilities of this app deployed by Alexander Cohen, right? And this is very hard to believe because actually when you want to deploy an app on Facebook, it has to pass a lot of different filters. So I'm guessing they knew very well what was happening. I'm also guessing they took advantage of this data as well and made profit out of it. In the second place, he, for example, denied have worked alongside the Alamo Project, which was this group of people in charge of Trump's advertisement campaign. And all of this is very different of what Cambridge Analytica employees have said on their statements, like Alexander Nix, who was the CEO, or Brittany Kaiser, who was in charge of public relations, and even Christopher Wiley. All of them said that they work alongside employees of Facebook during the Trump's campaign, right? And finally, they denied also being monetizing people's personal data, which just seems ridiculous because actually, as I told you, this information was even on presentations, commercial presentations that Cambridge Analytica exposed to their possible clients in order to get better clients. I mean, it was an advantage they had over other enterprises, so they point out in those presentations that they had at least 5,000 points of data of at least 50 million Facebook users. So there you got it. It is completely fake. Facebook, of course, at some point tell them not to show this kind of information in their presentations, and They even said that the information that was acquired by these means, by these personality tests, will be at some point deleted, and they didn't. They never did that. It was discovered by the Guardian Post months later that they still have all of this information. But on the other hand, this presence of Zuckerberg at court was actually very disappointing, because it seemed to me that the people who were making the questions didn't even understand fully what they were saying and how this works, and so they just had like this attitude that were somewhere implying that he was guilty, but they didn't actually know how to prove it. This is somewhere even sad or something. I think these implications Facebook had out of this problem, out of this scandal, were too tiny, yeah, and that's open to interpretation, because anyway they've got, for example, to pay a fine, right, a high fine. But maybe the worst thing that happened to Facebook was that in the stock market, their stocks dropped like 6%, which represents almost $6,000 million, which, well, it's a fortune, but then again, it was just 6%, right? I think the implications would have to be a lot bigger than this, because, as you may understand, this is very serious. And one thing you have to take into account as well in this subject is that illegal obtention of data is rather common, right? I'm not saying that every enterprise has adopted these practices. Not every enterprise wants to manipulate you, but you have to be aware that some of them want, so kind of pay attention to that, right? But I will say that the ones who can afford it, because data is very expensive anyhow, will may be involved in this kind of practices. Okay, the enterprises who can afford the illegal obtention of data will maybe consider to do this. Okay, and here I want to maybe even paraphrase financial director of Cambridge Analytica, who said that for him just sucks Cambridge Analytica got this much attention from the media, because actually there was hundreds of enterprises that were making almost the same, okay, but they got in front of the camera, right, and got ripped off by everyone. They just will get illegally all of this information, they will make their own profiles, and they will try to exploit them in the best way they can. And as I said before, not only for political reasons. You logically may think that these political implications are maybe worse than the commercial ones, but I think that's just a proof of how used to this kind of behaviors we already are, and this is very dangerous as well. So this is an invitation, guys, to think twice before posting anything on Facebook, to look at your profiles and see what information is out there, what are you sharing with everyone in the world. And also it's an invitation to keep a little privacy, because this private message on Facebook or whatever you text on WhatsApp, for example, which is also part of Facebook, it's not private at all, right? Be aware of for example, this personality test that you can find on Facebook, that I still can't believe how people fall into those traps, right? That you may find these tests, like for example, asking you which character of I don't know, Game of Thrones are you, or which character of Harry Potter saga are you, or whatever. It's just meant to kind of attract everyone. You can find even which of the dwarfs of White Snow you are. Come on, okay? Just don't fill those forms. Come on, it's ridiculous, right? You're giving a lot of personal information, a lot of very detailed facts about yourself, and for what, right? Like you're going to have a response like, I already knew I was Jon Snow anyway, right? In the documentary, we can follow David Carroll, which is a parent, a USA citizen, that is very concerned about the information that Facebook has from him and his family, right? He wants to know how they got all the information they got, what is the information they got from him, and who they share with this information. So I want you to know that we have actually that right, and that's mainly all we can do. When we identify that some company has some information about us that we don't know how they got it. Actually, our rights are protected by some laws which has a lot of flaws and which have to evolve a lot in years to come to really protect us from these kind of things, okay? So we can ask formally to this enterprise how they got this information, which is this information, and who they share with, okay? That's all we can do. But finally, Facebook has refused to deliver this information, to give any response, and that's why they got to pay so very high fine at the end of this story. So this was all for today. Just remember to stay at home, remember not to give away your personal data, and be cautious about the things you share with the entire world. See you guys.